Do I Do It?
Welcome to episode 6 of the Do I Do It podcast. This week's a good one.
This is a really exciting one. Yeah.
This one was a little bit different in that we talked a lot more philosophically in a way.
Yeah. No. Yeah, we sat down with Dan Candler. We started by introducing him as a photographer, but quickly learned that he's got a whole range of artistic background and
he started more as a dancer and an actor, a model, and then he moved into photography, and now he has a creative community.
Yeah, the Candler Creative.
Which we will be tagging in this post as well, so check it out.
Yeah.
And especially if you're in London, it's definitely a community that you should check out. Join the community, check out the events that they host. It's a really great way to get inspired and then connect with other creatives.
And it's very in line with what we're doing in the way that it's multidisciplinary kind of thing. And we talked a lot about that idea of being. So yeah, the episode was kind of about the identity of the artist in the way that like we talked a lot about the psychological sort of experience of the arts and being creative and yeah, like you said at the beginning, it's a more philosophical, more thought-provoking kind of episode. So it was really enjoyable to chat with Dan.
Yeah. So we won't hold you up for too long. We'll get to the episode. But remember to subscribe on YouTube or Spotify or both. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok. And we can't wait to hear your feedback.
Yeah.
Please let us know what you think. Comment, send us a message, do what you got to do.
Yeah, we really are appreciating all the feedback we've been getting.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
And it's definitely informing the type of content we want to make and yeah, so just keep it up. We love the engagement and enjoy the episode. And here we go.
It's going to be great for the BTS.
For the B-reel. Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. Welcome to episode 6 of the Do I Do It podcast.
So exciting. Welcome, Dan.
We're sitting down
with
Dan Candler, a photographer extraordinaire.
And just kind of on top of that, you have a lot of other experience as a dancer, as an artist, and you run a creative community, just kind of all sorts of different kinds of arts.
Yeah, pretty much everything known to man.
Love that. Just dabbled. You've dipped your toes in.
Would you say photography is kind of like the front burner?
Now I think it is. Yeah. Because I've done so many different creative endeavors throughout my life. I think going on this journey to kind of find my authentic self, that's been a real thing of my whole entire life. Just trying to figure out how I present myself to the world authentically, but also how I present myself to me authentically. So going on all these different creative endeavors has kind of guided me to this journey, and now I would say primarily I do a lot more photography because I love the creative element with it and the amount of different creatives I can work with, utilizing my other skills as like a model, as a dancer. It just works really well with that. And then also obviously with the community, it works like amazing with that. And yeah, I just love the connection of it and the collaboration side of what photography brings to my life. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other thing about photography is that you're capturing what people see, but in such a unique way, because the way that you frame everything, the angles that you choose, the colors, all of those things are going to be either what people see or what someone maybe will hope that they see, right? And I feel like you have such a power to be able to have that experience as a dancer, because I mean the way that the body is, and you have a deeper understanding of that, and as a model as well. Do you find that helps you, kind of all of your background, to be a better photographer?
No, for sure. I almost try to tell everyone as well to be multidisciplinary in a way, like whether you don't see it for your life, I think it's so important to cross-discipline, to be the model or be the photographer, be the other side and see how that works, so then you can implement it into your your passions and your skills. So I get to, when in my photo shoots and when I'm working with a model or with a creative, I can be in that zone with them and say, look, like, I can do this, and I feel like this would work well because of the shapes and the flow of it. So let's give it a try. And sometimes it doesn't work with people, but at least, but I think it's important to be there and be able to be able to do it and be able to have the proof and have an understanding of how the model and the creative is feeling in that situation, because to some people it is daunting, and it's been daunting for me. I've been on big sets and you've got like big cameras in front of your face, and like it's like, okay, wow, like I used to just like taking photos or like before, like taking photos with friends or just in comfortable situations, and then all of a sudden like, whoa. So you understand that feeling, and I think that's really important for the creative process.
For sure. I mean, I get in front of a camera and then all of a sudden I have no idea what to do with my arms and legs. I feel like it immediately become so uncomfortable. Yeah, I feel like, I guess actually there was a photo of Theo and I that we had taken in 2023, I think. Anyways, but the photo of us, we look like an older middle-aged couple.
Oh, that. Yeah, I know exactly.
And it's fully just because we didn't pose very well. It was just like such a very awkward photo. And then a year later, we got another photo taken. They were both at weddings. And we got another photo taken. We were wearing similar outfits or whatever. And we look like 20 years younger. And it was like...
It looks like a weight loss journey.
Yeah.
And there was no journey.
There was no journey. But I feel like that's one of those things, is that like, especially if you've been a model, that feeling, what you would have liked to have in a photographer or whatever. Then you're able to kind of be that in a way too.
Yeah.
I think like that's a really great thing to hear from someone else about not needing to specialize in like one specific thing. Because I've felt that a lot. I talk a bit on the podcast about my
your journey.
My journey.
There's a journey.
Yeah, or like my insecurities. Like I think I talk a lot about my insecurities. Like when it comes to...
Because we're working through them. I feel like this podcast is like...
It does become like a therapy session.
Yeah.
That's why I love this format. Like you get to sit with people, have a conversation, and just let that conversation authentically kind of like roam free, and that itself is a release of your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I truly think that as soon as you speak and you talk, you're putting your thought process into reality, and then it's allowing yourself to accept that.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think everybody knows more than they think they do. And everybody has some sort of value to give to someone, be it if it's a way to inspire someone who's trying to get into that field or whatever it is, or going through something. I feel like there's something that this forum gives us the potential to do, right?
Mm-hmm. So like I was thinking about I don't know where this comes from. Like I think that because I've spent a lot of time in like the academia kind of world, doing like a master's and like looking forward to doing a PhD in that. And the rhetoric in there is that you need to specialize and like hyper specialize. And there's this idea that if you're not incredibly good at one thing, then you're kind of irrelevant. And so, yeah, so like there's no time to do all sorts of like
side quests.
Of course, there's always exceptions. Like even in like I say that, and I'm sure that there's like several people in the academic world that are like, no, it's not true at all. Like I multi specialize or whatever. But I don't know. I think that's a thing that people deal with, is this idea of needing to be needing to fix their identity to one type of activity, and then being really good at that and having that as like their expose, sort of like, here's what I can do and I can do it really well.
I mean, even when we introduced you at first, we said, oh, you're a photographer, but then it's like, okay, but that's like one part, right? And that's that whole story. Not to take you off track too much, but I was going to say, how did you get into doing all of these things?
I think it probably stems from my childhood. I would I would always do so many different things, and I always say that I think the catalyst of my creativity was when I was 10. So I went to Glastonbury with my mom and sister, and there was like this circus tent, and I picked up a Diablo, and I was just randomly like really good at it.
Oh my gosh.
And I like started doing that a lot more, because I just really enjoyed like the flow of it, and I did that for a while. Then I pick up like another circus trick, and I do that, and then I like ended up just every year picking up something new, and I just loved that expression when like and that feeling, when you're learning something new, and like you're physical with it, and you're in this flow state, because it just took me out of reality and just allowed me just to I guess just to be. So I just loved that feeling, and then from that moment, I just kind of, yeah, I wanted to do something else. I wanted to learn something else, and I wanted to learn something else, and I was never academic. I when I was in school, I was like, what can I do that's like the most unacademic thing? I'm gonna go to a musical theatre college and prance around and just do that, And then that kind of just like set the motion off for me to just find this love for performing, and I wanted to be an actor, and then I was in the musical theatre world, so I wanted to be on stage and perform in every side of the the creative, that creative side. So yeah, it went from then. I wanted to be a dancer, and then that when I started going into more dance, at dance college, Bodywork in Cambridge. I just loved it. I loved moving, and I then joined a contemporary company, Chrysalis London, in my third year as a junior associate. So I'd go for summer when I wasn't at college, and I would go train with the company, and then I left and then joined them for 2 years. And yeah, that's where I found my true dance flow, and I think I started going on my like more authentic path. I think before it was like I was just trying this and trying this, and then as soon as I got connected to dance, I felt this connection to creativity, and then that's what I think set me off. So
Very cool. And so your mom took you to Glastonbury. What did your family think about you going down a creative path like that?
They're always really supportive. My mum is an artist, and she's flowed in so many different like artist kind of like zones. And my parents were always like big advocates of me just like, just spreading my wings and just like doing what brought me excitement.
That's great. Yeah.
And was just sheer encouragement for those kind of things, and I think that was just really important. And I think that is important, especially in your early life, to be encouraged to explore, be encouraged to just do everything, so you can truly find your path. I mean, I've only just got to 30, and I've been experimenting my whole life, and it's only 3 years ago since I started building Candid Creative that, which is my community, that I think I feel this sense of true wider purpose, and that's what I think we're all trying to find. Right, I'm still on this journey of transition and trying to figure that out, but I found there was this moment when I had this idea of building something bigger than myself, that I just was like, this is, oh my god, this is my life journey now, and I can now build towards this. I don't feel so disconnected anymore. I can like do all these different things, but it's all to the ambition of this one wider purpose. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so like I've loved, like we've chatted a little bit just once before this meeting, but yeah, you say these really relatable things, and that's so like reassuring to hear. Because like I think that I've thought, like for myself, I've thought a lot about the idea of what that life's purpose kind of journey is, or what it is that I want to do, and like why do I want to do it? Like what is the motivation? There's this term, I don't know how often this term gets used, like vocational thinking and that kind of thing. It's used in more like religious contexts, but vocation being the idea that like there's something like you kind of talk about this idea of like a body of work that's bigger than yourself, or that is kind of like a legacy or something like that. Anyway, I've thought about that in terms of like, what do I want that to look like for me? And the question I always come back to is like, what sort of impact do I want to leave in the world? Like, what kind of a mark do I want to leave? And it's always like, no matter where I'm at in my life and no matter the context, it's always comes back to this idea that's like, well, I know I don't want to make a lot of money, and I don't want that to be the thing, kind of like the goal.
But we get like manipulated to almost think that, right?
Yeah.
And even subconsciously sometimes, like we may not even feel it, but societally, we're on this like this journey, or this like don't know what the word I can't articulate the word I'm trying to think of, but we're on this like journey that we get shown and told that we have to, in order to be successful, this, like you were saying earlier, like this isn't in some people's minds, but a lot of people, like, you have to have money to survive, so then I have to have more money to to have a better life, and I have to have more money to be happy. And it's like, well, no, that's not the true that's not the true calling of our life. It's just the way that over time we have been brought to believe.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and we've talked about this before on the podcast too, is that like the way that the mindset that we've really found ourselves in a lot, especially growing up in Western Canada, is, okay, so you're picking something that you want to do with your life, and what's the job going to be? And immediately, even if people choose very like admirable, wonderful jobs, like I have a lot of good friends who have become teachers, and immediately people are like, oh, okay, well, you're going to be broke and overworked. And that's immediately the conversation, right? And it's like, why, and so as an artist, the mindset around that is a lot worse. Like, even when Theo would talk about like, oh, I have an English degree and I'm doing a master's in English, and he's talked about it on the podcast before, but then the whole thing was, okay, well then you're going to be, without work forever.
And then you're already putting, then that negative connotation is being put into your mind, which then creates the anxiety, and which then manifests and grows. And then that's what stops you from becoming your true, authentic self.
Yeah. And I think no matter what, and no matter how determined one is and how self-aware one is, those narratives still linger in your mind.
Sure.
No matter how, and like I think that's really important to recognize, is that you can be a really like self-aware person, but like it's important to acknowledge that again, that narrative is crushing, and it's everywhere, and it's always there, and always like challenging you, I think. And so I think it's important just to like always recognize that.
One of the things that's actually been quite fun, and I've done this my whole life, but all the time I'm like, okay, what part of the movie or the documentary would this be about? Or like, if there was a documentary made about
main character vibes.
Exactly. And I've been doing this for like probably a decade. I don't know why, but it helps me get through like the very difficult times where I'm like, okay, this is the montage where I'm going to work and doing whatever.
The dark night of the soul.
Yeah, right. And I'm like, what's the music that's going to go over top? What's going to happen? But Theo and I have talked about that. It's funny because we find like the small things where we're like, okay, well, I mean, this is the part of the movie where like we're broke living in a really cool flat in London, and we have wine on the table, we have cheese and crackers, and all is well, and it's like, this is the part where we look at and like we've built some cool character, we've got like our whatever outfits that we've had forever, and that's that, and I feel like there's like, I don't know, there's a romanticization of like that part of life, because I mean, yeah, we don't make a ton of money. We don't have like kind of that riches yet.
You mean like a romanticization in the sense that you look at it in a glamorous way, but when you're living in it, it's not glamorous? Is that what?
No, I'm saying that's what I glamorize it, or I romanticize it, so then that way I appreciate it more. Because I've had times where I've journaled or whatever, and I'm like, you know what, like, I don't need as much as I thought, because like we have a good bottle of wine and we've got cheese and crackers and we can hang out in our apartment with cool people and talk to cool people, and we can go to parks, we could do like amazing things, and we're in London. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's like a creative way to bring gratitude into your life, which is super important.
100%. Yeah, because that gratitude, that's a good point, because like that is what it is gratitude for the little things. Because yeah, I think otherwise you can get pretty crushed by what you don't have.
I kind of want to push back on. Not like I don't disagree. Well, I don't disagree.
Oh, yes. There's just been a little bit of spice.
It's not that I disagree with you.
Okay.
But I think that because what I'm thinking of, and I don't know how related it is, but so when you look at examples of, for some reason, like Kurt Cobain comes to mind, which is like I think it's fair, because he's glamorized in a way. I think still, I don't know. This is probably like dating me a lot, because I don't know, like I don't know if Nirvana and Kurt Cobain are like as culturally relevant anymore.
No, I think so. I mean, there's
so?
like, yeah, style is really like.
Yeah. Okay. Let's hope so. If we have any like.
Well, in the last episode,
early 20 and 19-year-olds watching, they might be like, they might be like, oh,
let us know, guys.
Yeah. Anyway, we're all roughly.
I was talking about Oprah and David Letterman in the last episode. Like, that's so old.
But, so what the point is that I want to make is that like, and I love Nirvana. I think Kurt Cobain's a brilliant artist and whatnot. But like, his entire aesthetic was that of the depressed, drug addicted, mentally ill artist, right? And like someone who suffered and was suffering, and whose suffering fed into his art, and that's why you have the music of Nirvana that's so good. But I think that like when you talk about this romanticization, which is, again, I don't disagree with you, but I think that like there is a tendency to romanticize the struggle and the suffering of artists and of people in general, in a way of like, you know, wow, look at how well they did despite this like pain, and like, oh, I can really empathize and really feel it. But there's kind of a like a bracketing off, and like, but I would never want to be a heroin addicted bipolar person, you know, like, do you kind of see what I'm saying? Is like, I think part of what we're doing on the podcast too is to recognize that like for every Kurt Cobain, there's like thousands of guys and girls who have serious drug addictions, have serious mental illness, have.
Well, we're not advocating for drugs.
No. But,
not that kind of podcast.
But what I mean is like so for every struggling artist who made it, there's a bunch of struggling artists who aren't making it and who are like.
No, I kind of see what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad that's coming through.
Yeah. Like, so like we're almost romanticizing the big artists who, you know, have gone through this stuff. Mm-hmm. But there's a whole world of other artists that are going through the exact same stuff, and it's like we're all.
And we don't care.
Yeah.
We care about, again, it's sort of like it's masked in this idea of like, look at, you know, how valiant you were to push through. But what's being valorized is, but you made it, and you came out above all those losers.
Because people only make a comment when you have made it, and they only respect when you have made it.
Yeah, exactly.
That struggle of like when you are going through it, they're like, oh well, I'm going through that, and like I'm going through that, so like I'm gonna worry about myself and I do my thing, and then okay, cool, like, but then as soon as that person makes it, it's like, oh my god, like you were struggling, like, oh my god, how can I support and help you?
Yeah,
like, okay, where were you when we were both going through the same thing?
Exactly. Yeah. The getting on the bandwagon, but after this person's signed and they have an agent and this kind of thing.
But I think that is like the power of a community. To bring it back a little bit more, absolutely. Like, because I think there is, what you're saying is true. I think what I'm going to say though is that like being able to have a community to bring you back to earth on a regular basis and like make sure that you're well even in your kind of struggles and you're like moving towards wherever you go, and whatever you're trying to do is going to be really important, right? Because I mean, if I started doing heroin tomorrow in the pursuits of my creative passions,
I'm gonna have a Jim from The Office moment.
I think well, that's the thing, is I think that there would be a couple people in my life who would be like, Elena, what?
Yeah.
So, like, I think that that's something that's really important. One of the things that we've talked about in London specifically is that it's a massive place. And so, I mean, was that one of the driving factors towards starting Candler Creative with the community and that kind of thing? Or what was the big driver to starting the community here?
Yeah, it's interesting you see that perspective because of London. My drive was, I think, stemmed from again like a bit of a catalyst. I never really went on this. I never started really going on this journey of like truly building like a community and wanting to build this space. But I think it was a natural progression because, like I said earlier, like I've been continuously looking and like on this search for this wider purpose of what I can provide to the world and give value. And doing so many different things, and I've seen this, and by doing all these different things and kind of going on this journey of like outer awareness has made me see how connected we all are as creatives, no matter what discipline, no matter what you do. And even if you're not, even if you class yourself as not creative, my main like tagline, if you will, is creativity is everything and everyone, because I truly think that, and I really truly believe we can unite on that single fact. So bringing it back, it was a catalyst. Like, so when I was like 27, I always envisioned, just like I think most people do, when I get to 30, I've got my whole life sorted out and all
Yeah.
blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Yes,
So I got
yes.
hit 27. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's 3 years. It's 3 years away, bro. And I went on this like sudden shift of like, okay, Dan, you're doing all these different things. You're a multidisciplinary creative, but society doesn't allow that. So you need to think about your, like what you were saying earlier. Think about your one direction.
Yeah. What's the specialty?
What's your specialty? Because everyone's telling me you have to have a specialty, and truly in the back of my head, in my gut, I don't believe that, and I never did believe that. But I was like, well, I need to make something of myself. So cool, right? So you do dance. What is your true passion? Your gut going towards? Okay, cool, photography. Right, cool. You're just a photographer now, Dan. So I like went on this journey, and then I was like doing studio shoots and bringing people into the fold. And I loved doing editorials. So I had this idea of doing editorials, but then I also love speaking philosophically and talking about the world and kind of making people aware of this wider awareness of like our reality around us. So I was like, okay, great. I could do editorials, get a load of people together, and then speak about the world around us, create editorial concepts on that, and then we can just present that to the world and try and make a positive message to try and change things around the world. So I went on that journey. Then I found NFTs, which is like the Web3, like the Web3 kind of vibe. And I was like, oh my God, okay, cool. There's this new blockchain technology, and like it's really interesting. So let's maybe go down that route. So I went down that route, started seeing all these like American communities in the NFT world, like just speaking to each other on Discord, saying hi and like, how are you? Like, cool, like that art relates to like what I do, and like just talking and communicating. And I was like, this is amazing. This is real, like just real world shit. Like they're just speaking, just saying hi, as simple as that, but that's connection. And I got more into that, and then the more I kind of was developing this like idea of bringing people together, I built I met someone who was a stylist. I brought her on the team, and we started building this idea of this editorial. It was called Thrift Flip. And then we started putting like an event together, and then I would get loads of different like dancers involved, and then like musicians. We made like a catwalk, and it was just very multidisciplinary. And then I think from there, NFTs in the Web3 world kind of started like going away, and the idea of truly building an authentic community, multidisciplinary community, started coming into play. And then ever since that, I've just been building on this idea and trying to develop it, and it's a continued journey, and I'm still trying to figure it out, just like I'm trying to figure out my life. But I think that's what's quite powerful about a community when it's authentic and you don't know what you're doing, because none of us truly know what we're doing. And if we can just be vulnerable and allow ourselves to understand that and have a community for that, where it's not, okay, cool, I'm leading it, but like, what's your ideas? What do you want for this space? Like, let's bring people into this idea of building something bigger than ourselves and just support each other, inspire each other, and grow together. And we can then develop an ecosystem where we can actually, like I said, support each other, but also support the wider idea of what the creative industry is. So that's like my idea. Like it's just been a development over time, and now I'm in this place of like, just trying to actually truly make this a space for and truly make this a space for people to come on board and just be creatively free. Because
that's a really cool point, that creatively free point too, because I think sometimes that can feel very limiting in the world that we live in, because we're always on social media, we're always seeing all of these things. I think it was like something like we see over 100 images a day or something ridiculous, right? Where it's like, how does your brain process all of that? Do you think that limits some of our creativity or expands it?
I think it depends on the energy of the moment. I think the scale more goes towards diminishes it, because it's so much. And I think we're in this cycle at the moment of change and adaptation, because we have so much information, and the information has been growing exponentially over the last 5-10 years. And I think we're all now trying to figure out how we take in so much information but still allow ourselves to be true to ourselves. And then going back to your earlier point of this idea of everyone on this mindset of what was the phrasing you said, of the One Direction?
Yeah, the specialty.
Yeah, the specialty.
Specialization.
Yeah. That, cool, 10 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, was meant for society, because we didn't have all the noise. So it was like, cool, I'm going to specialize in this, I'm just going to do this thing. But now everyone's doing everything, and because they see something, they get inspired and they go, oh my God, I want to do that. So I'm going to go try that. Or like, maybe I can be like this person. I feel very envious of like the way that the success that they're getting doing that, which seems really exciting. Maybe I can do that. And people are exploring more things. So I think in a way it can be good to find your exploration again, but also it can be too much. And if your energy doesn't align with that, it can feel very frantic, which then puts you in this like this motion of like paralysis. And I'm speaking from experience, like not experience, sorry, of like from personal experience, because it does sometimes for me. Like I'll like look on socials, or I'll be seeing what everyone's doing, and I'm like, oh my God, maybe I have to be going in that direction because that seems like it's really successful. Oh no, but they're doing that, so maybe I should go do that, and like. So it's like too much. It's like so much.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, even with us building the podcast, it's still quite new. But sometimes I'll spend a little too much time scrolling through social media, looking at other podcasts, what they're doing and that kind of thing. And I'm like, I start to lose what the goal was, and I have to kind of get back. We actually spent last weekend, we did like a little kind of like a strategy sesh, where we sat down and we talked about what are we actually trying to do, what's the goal, what do we want to see the podcast do in the next few weeks, in the next few months, that kind of thing, which I think is always a good way to like get into a good mindset. And we've done things like vision boards and that kind of thing, but then you can get pretty sucked into all of that noise, and then like I'll have a couple of days where I'm like, oh, I just can't post because it's just not going to be good enough, or it's not going to be whatever, right? Which it's hard to get out of that space. I will say, like, going back to that community thing, I think everybody's searching for that more and more now, and having a community can be, I mean, actually that's a good point, because sometimes, a good point that I just made, but But we have a couple of friends that like they'll regularly text and be like, okay, so how's the new episode going? I shared it with a friend, or I did this or whatever. I loved what you said about this or whatever. And just like, even like the people in your circle being able to tell you, okay, this is what I liked about it. That's so helpful. And I feel like that's a really impactful thing that your community can do too, right?
Yeah, and I think it's so important. And community is popular. I had this conversation with a few people recently, and I'm also filming a few. I'm going to start filming a few interviews with community leaders, because I think it's important now more than ever to understand what community is and what that word actually truly means to us, because the word community it's just being thrown around like no tomorrow, and people are using this word community in order to find consumers, and I also think community is popping up more now than ever because we are all longing for connection, and we're all longing to get back to understanding, because like I said earlier, like we're in this transitional change into this new era of like so much information, so it's like, oh my god, I don't really know what I'm doing. And I was speaking to this other founder, and I think that's why a lot of community founders start communities, because I think a lot of them are multidisciplinary, do so many different things within different sectors, and are like trying to find themselves. So what they do is they bring people into the fold to help them understand themselves, but then also help them understand themselves, but then help other people to also find connection and understand what is going on. And yeah, I just think it's really powerful. I think especially with the way the creative landscape is shifting, I think we need to come together as creatives and be like, right, we're not going to get support anymore. Like, we're not going to get support, so let's support each other.
This is something I've been like super interested in for a while now. Is the idea of the salon, or the salon, it's a French notion. So it comes from the Enlightenment, around the Enlightenment kind of thing. And I think, and they had them in England. It's a European thing. So this is something that like fascinated me, a North American. Basically, what the salon was a space, usually in someone's living room, kind of like this, where artists would, and usually like musicians and painters and this kind of thing, would gather together, and typically it would be like a very rich, like aristocratic person would host a gathering, and they'd have like Chopin's making an appearance at this party kind of thing. But they would go and they would be in environments with other like very wealthy people, business people, lawyers, whatever you like. And as a result of this like organic kind of connection between artist and aristocrat, you would form these like basically patrons of the arts kind of thing. People who are like, well, I have money to spend and I want to spend it on great art and great music and great this and that. And I've encountered this, artist at this social event, and now I'm, commissioning a piece from him kind of thing. But they became like quite popular in that time period.
I can't speak for every other community, but the idea that I'm trying to bring to the world is like getting rid of this hierarchy thing.
Yeah.
Of just like, okay, cool, like you've got this massive company and you're a billionaire and you're just looking for profit, but like we're still on the same like, not the same journey, but we're on the like we're all trying to become a better version of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, if we can all bring it back to just this authentic
like humanity and
humanity, right?
I think the human
the
reality.
The human reality of existence, and just be able to and have more of these people in higher
like wage
bracket, whatever it is, just come down and actually just go to these kind of lower end community events, if whatever, or like smaller type of community events, and just connect with people and like make true connection. and then support each other that way. Whether it is finance, or whether it's just even just a conversation to be like, maybe you should actually do this. This is what I did to get to here, and yes, there are those spaces and stuff, but it's all very gatekeepery and and
It's exclusive.
exclusive,
Right. Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
of that, and it's not. Yeah, so I think we just need to almost encourage more of the wealth gap to come down to the real world, and just connect with like the people, right? And just be like, cool, how can we actually make this society work? Because it's not obviously not working.
I think that's another point, is that everybody can learn something from everybody. And I think that that's the way that I like to go about my life, is that like it doesn't matter if someone is like from a different country, from a different, economic background, from a different religion, from a different whatever, it doesn't matter to me. It's like I feel like that's so important, to be able to walk into a room and to wonder what you can learn from the people around you, because I think that maybe is part of the problem too, is that like people do sometimes walk into a room being like, oh, I'm kind of superior in
It's
a
the
way.
ego, right?
There's an ego for sure.
I think going on that like ego thing though, like I think that is the main factor of all of these situations. And I think, look, we all have ego, but whether we're aware of how the scale of the ego within us is a different story. Because I even thought recently I had to kind of look at myself and go, and because there was something off within me, and whenever that's off, I'm like, I try to piece it together and think deeper and speak to myself about it. And I had to almost admit to myself that I think there was like a subtle ego-ness, there was a subtle ego of like what I was building or like what I was doing, because I was speaking to all these different people were relying on me, so it makes me think like, okay, wow, like, okay, cool, like I'm this guy, and I think that was like embedded deep within me that I just never even clocked. But then as soon as I kind of like said that to myself, it allowed me to just like kind of go, okay, cool, like actually I can be authentic within my communication now, and just be a little bit more authentic with my direction. Like if I feel myself feeling like I'm like almost like not above, because I don't really think that, but like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's actually a time that I was doing some mentoring for, because I have a marketing degree. I that's my career, but I was in school and I was teaching a first year class or mentoring a first year class or whatever, and I gave feedback that I sometimes think about now, or like it pops into my head kind of like on a random day, and I gave kind of shit feedback just to give feedback. And I look back at that sometimes and I'm like, girl, you did not have to do that. And I'm like,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
what?
You felt the need
Yeah.
to just speak.
Well, no, I gave kind of like harsh feedback, and
Oh, I
I
see.
look back sometimes, or like this is the one time that or probably not just one time, but like, there was this one time that I just like look so glaringly at that I'm like, that was so unnecessary. And I'm like, it wasn't that I was mean, but it was just more like, it was more of a preference argument than I think that anything. And I'm like, man, that was one of those things that was so unnecessary.
Yeah.
And that's probably an ego issue.
No, but that's
you
what I
know?
mean. Like even those subtleties of just like, oh, well, I've actually had a 5-year career,
Yeah.
and you're just at the start of your journey. You have no idea what you're talking about,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, actually, yeah, they may not, but they have their ideas, and their and their reality is valid. So maybe we can just come back to earth and be on a linear line together, parallel, and just have a conversation, and not allow that thing of just like, no, well, I've had more training than you, and to just be on the same wavelength of just like, okay, I'm actually just going to listen to what you have to say, and I will then let you know what my thought process on that, and maybe I can actually give you some other perspectives to enlighten your journey, because your journey is completely different to me. Your ideas and your path is going to go in so many different ways, and we are continuously learning and adapting what it means to live and be human and us. So maybe your ideas are valid, and you're thinking slightly different to what we've thought 5 years ago.
100%.
Yeah. That reminds me of I had a professor in my undergrad who he's excellent, like just a phenomenal professor, and he said, and I'll never forget this, it was like he said that he learns something new from undergraduate classes more than anything else, like more than graduate classes, more than other PhDs. And like this is a guy who is an expert, like 30 plus year career in the academy, and he said like my favorite part of the job is doing lectures with undergraduates because he listens and sits and actually hears what people's thoughts are about the text or whatever. And he was like, yeah, like I'm always surprised by what kind of perspective, and from 19-year-olds, right, who don't have a degree, and
we are all teachers, and we are all teachers, and we are all students all the time.
And that's the only way to welcome people into something too, right? Because if I go in and I go talk to, like, I mean, I was a classical pianist for a long time. If I go in and I talk to a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old that's like, in their classical music kind of journey, and I say like, oh, well, you shouldn't bother playing this kind of composer because I just don't think that's your style. Like that could impact them moving forward. Maybe that like steers them away from doing something. Or if I tell them, you know what I mean? Like there's all sorts of things that you can be told one time by a random person, and that can really cause like a couple years of staying away from something, right? Or not diving into something you want to do.
No, absolutely.
That's why I think in our earlier development, we should be allowed to just continuously explore and not be held back. And then when you get later on in life, I think that's when you can start implementing and have dialogue, together, and go, okay, you're starting to understand your journey a bit more. Here's some advice of like how you maybe go to that journey. I wouldn't particularly, this is my personal opinion, I wouldn't particularly maybe look at that type of research or that type of thing, because you've already said you know what I mean. You can have that dialogue as adults, but as kids, going in your earlier development, there's still the world is just all there, and they have all these possibilities. So as soon as you have these negative connotations and to shut something down, you have no idea what result that could have, or that ripple effect that could have been made. So yeah.
This is like a TikTok trend right now where it's like the butterfly effect. So it's like, oh, if I hadn't gone to this one thing or whatever, I wouldn't have met this person. You know what I mean? There's that whole like one thing happened and it left this whole kind of step by step of it. I want to take it back to you a little bit. So you went to school for musical theater and dance?
So I left school straight into like a BTEC college course, which is like a 2-year course, and you could like specialize in like something. So you could either do like carpentry or like whatever. So I did musical theatre at Northampton College, and then from there, again, all of this was like a very, it was all just like natural progression. Like I said, like I didn't want to do something academics, cool, so I'll prance around for my career. So I went and did that, and then the natural progression from that college, everyone was talking about, like professional stage school, where you train for 3 years. It's the equivalent of like uni. And I was like, okay, that sounds pretty cool. And they were like, you've got to audition. I was like, oh, okay, what does that mean? What do I even have to do there? So then I auditioned, and I got into turns out I wasn't actually too bad. So I got into like quite a few places. I got like a scholarship at the place that I went, Bodywork. And then, I trained there in musical theatre and dance for 3 years, and then specialised in dance into my 2nd and 3rd year, and then...
Amazing. And so when you specialized and you got out of school, what kind of projects were you working on? What kind of things were you doing?
So when I left college, I went straight into Chrysalis, which is the contemporary company I joined, and we would meet up every week. But then alongside that, I kind of started getting into a bit of like modeling. In college, I picked up a camera because my granddad was always was into like his cameras and just had like these cool cameras and stuff around. So I always had this idea embedded in me of like getting a camera and like just capturing stuff just for fun. And then I was in college, and I think someone was like, "Oh, you're actually quite good at that." So I was like, "Oh, maybe I can do this as like a side thing. Just do like headshots, get paid for it, and then sweet." So then I was already doing a bit of photography just as like a hobby, and doing like the modeling and stuff on the side, because I think I just got picked up from like a few things. And then yeah, like in the contemporary company, we would meet up every week and we would come up with dance pieces. We came up with like a show called Lilith, which we performed at King's Cross Theatre. We got booked for like a few other places like around London, like Shoreditch House and stuff like that. So yeah, and then I left that, I think 2016. I can't remember, yeah. But I left 17, 18? Something like 18 maybe. I left that until 18, and then I went like traveling and then came back, and then that's when I kind of just was like, because when I left the contemporary company I was like, is dance my thing, like as in like because the contemporary company was so free flowing, and the type of person I am, of what I've obviously just been talking about today, I just like go with my energy. It was a community. It was a community of like a small community of dancers who just like loved each of our journeys and wanted each other to grow, and just be in the flow state of creating. And I just really loved that environment, and I was like, I just don't know if I'm going to get this anywhere else, so I'm going to leave the company and see where my natural progression goes. Do I naturally go to the dance and do auditions and castings and all this stuff, or do I do something else? And I started booking shoots and doing photography, and that aligned with the modeling. And I like I said earlier, I loved the creative collaboration element of it, so I just kind of started going on that direction.
That is really cool that you gave yourself that permission in a way to let yourself see what you would do and naturally stick to.
Yeah, like I'm wondering, so that's, how do you deal with those or when it comes up, if there's moments of like doubt or uncertainty or that, because I can't imagine that it's always just like
No.
full confident. I mean,
No.
maybe, but like just fully confident. I'm gonna just go and do this. Like, so how do you maintain that like sort of momentum?
Yeah, good question, because it comes up a lot, like self-doubt for me and anxiety. Like I got diagnosed with like severe anxiety and like mild depression and stuff, and it really does pop up. I think before, like I used to have like in school and college and stuff, I used to have like these episodes of just sheer just chaos within the mind. Now I see them as panic, like they were panic attacks.
Yeah.
And I think in a sense, yeah, probably because it was so uncertain because of all the different things I was doing. But I felt just such a sense of connection when I was doing all these different things. And I think the things that get me through the self-doubt and the anxiety is just to keep moving. Like I have this project in mind of doing this. I can't quit this for myself, because the more I quit this for myself, the more I'm losing myself. If I almost commit to my things that I'm doing, that I feel have like a positive energy towards, that's building me up towards my true positive self. So yes, it can be like hard, and like the self-doubt comes in because you may not be getting the validation that you thought, but I think deep down there is this gut feel, we get this gut feeling of like, no, but this is me at the moment, like this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm drawn towards. So if I cut this and I just cut it and quit it, I'm almost losing a little piece of myself. So I think the self-doubt always comes, but I think the journey of being truly, authentically, positively me overpowers that self-doubt.
So when you say like you can't quit this for yourself, do you mean in the sense of like, so I'm really anxious about this project, really like about the outcome that might happen, and then there's that option in your mind, like maybe I don't do this to preserve my own well-being. Is that what you mean by quit for yourself, or?
Like quit feels like quit for myself. So like, if I was to, if I'm trying to articulate it, like, so if I was to quit this, I'm losing, because the thing is with anxiety, something I've realized, I've gone through so much like therapy and like I said,
We love therapy.
we love therapy, and like I said earlier, like I've really truly been on this mission to understand my reality. And the thing is with anxiety, it comes in two forms. You have excitement anxiety and you have dread anxiety. And you can understand and you can feel what that is. If I'm feeling like today, I was feeling anxious about today, but I'm excited. I'm excited to have these conversations. And I think it's important to lead towards the excitement anxieties and use your anxiety as a superpower. And so when I say I quit it for myself, if I'm leading on to an excitement, if I'm feeling anxious about something, but I know deep down in my gut I'm excited about it, if I was to quit that, that's the positive part of myself I'm just cutting off from myself, and it's then losing a part of what I could be. But there is still the anxiety of with dread involved, and then that side of things, that's what I believe you can cut. If you're feeling dread towards something, it's just not sitting right with you. I've literally just had it like the other day. I recently put together like a photo shoot day that I was so excited about, but I was also in this zone of transition and change. I was changing I was getting a new job. There was like loads of stuff within the business side of things that were changing and all of this. But I was so excited about this workshop, this photo shoot day. We weren't really getting ticket sales and it was becoming a fight. And then all of a sudden that excitement then switched to dread. But I was still fighting for it. I was still on this journey of like, but within me I was getting worse and worse and worse with the anxiety, and it was becoming more like dread and dread and dread. And then when it's sat in that energy, like it's just not good for anyone. So I made the decision literally yesterday to just cancel the shoot, and that is okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it is okay to say no to things.
Yeah.
But I think only if your energy just really truly just does not align with that, and it's okay to change, and it's okay to shift, but yeah, hopefully that made sense. Sorry, I was like,
yeah, no, I'm glad. Like, that is really interesting. I never thought of that like as a dichotomy, because I think that it tends, especially, and it's not just creative and artistic expression, life in general, is that there's different types of anticipation for how something's going to be, and they get muddled if you're not clear about it. You know, am I concerned about doing this thing because the possibility of failure exists, or am I concerned about doing this thing because there's really something wrong? Like, there's really something that I feel is just like, it's not right, you know? Yeah.
We've talked about it actually in the last episode of the podcast. I also have some anxiety, some pretty high levels of anxiety. And like, I mean, the thing for me is, because I mentioned I'm a classical pianist and I have been playing piano since I was 3, but I hate performing in front of people. I hate it. Like, I genuinely don't enjoy it. And being able to continue to play the piano and continue to learn pieces and stuff without a concert kind of coming up or whatever, letting go of the feeling that I had to perform and the obligation to people, that when I tell people, like, because when I tell people I'm a piano player, I've been playing piano since I was 3, whatever, and then immediately people are like, oh, play something. And I'm like, no, I don't. I genuinely don't want to.
You don't have to.
I don't have to. And when I realized that, I don't know why, like, I had to realize that, I genuinely was like, oh, okay, well, I mean, I play the piano because I enjoy it, and I do it for myself at this point. And yeah, I mean, we talked about it in the last episode, but like, I wouldn't even play for Theo.
Yeah.
like he'd walk into our office space in Saskatoon where we had our keyboard, and I would stop. Like, I just don't enjoy having people listen. And yeah, when I realized I could like, okay, I don't have to do this, right? And I think that as I've gotten older, I've been able to do that. And the way that I've dealt with my anxiety as I've gotten older is a lot different than when I was younger. Because when I was younger, I would just keep sprinting. I'd be like, oh, I just got to keep working harder and whatever, and then I'll move past it and whatever. And I didn't listen to that difference, right? Because, like, I mean, I've never thought about it that way, but that's a good point, and I'll tell my therapist. But I feel like that's like a really, because you have to listen to your intuition. And I mean, when you do struggle with an anxiety disorder, intuition is a lot more difficult, because you don't know what's real and what's not a lot of the time. And the fear, and because it's not always fear. Anxiety can like hold in different ways in your body, right? Anyways, I feel like that's a clarification I wanted to make too.
No, it's really good continuity with the last episode too. That's great.
Continuity.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, this idea it makes me think of like what's the difference between running to or running from something, you know what I mean? And like, yeah, I think that sometimes they feel the exact same.
Because actually that was, I mean, when I was younger, I was a very high achiever, but that was the way that I ran from my anxiety. And that just leads to burnout. Like, for all the young folks out there, like, that just leads to burnout because you're not taking care of yourself. It's not. You look like you're doing extremely well. Like, I was looking like I was thriving, but in reality, that's not really what it was. Because I didn't really sleep. I didn't really eat. I didn't really, take care of myself. And I did things very much out of a checklist and out of an obligation that I felt people were paying attention to.
That's literally been my thought process recently with the community, because and that's where say the ego and stuff started coming into play, because I was like, I've been doing it for 3 years, and I put on these big events, and we're a community, so in my head I was like, okay, well, I need to put on events, I need to do these events all the time and be consumed by them and make them massive, big, and have them full, and I felt like I was continuously doing that because I felt like I needed to do that to present us as a community, because everyone else is being successful in this. You've got all these other amazing communities that are putting on these events and they're selling out, and now people are attached to them, and that's they look more like a community because they're all together and they're all in an event. And I was like, I feel like I'm now just doing this because, and I'm not doing this. There's again, the anxiety that was there playing on me, and and I was in this zone of right, am I feeling this because of the excitement, or am I feeling subtle dread? And I think there was a subtle dread there. So I had to make the decision, I think, for myself for this time being, because at the end of the day, these things, we can take them away from our lives, but they're never really gone. They're within us, and they can always come back. But I think we seem to think that once we stop doing something, we've killed it and it's gone for good. But it might just not be the right time at that present moment. So for me, I had to make a decision for just for almost finding myself again, to kind of put a pause on it and just see how we can make this into what I just want this community to be, which is a beacon of support and positivity. And that doesn't necessarily mean you put on an event every week. You know what I mean?
The WhatsApp group chat is pretty active. I mean,
that. You know what? I started doing less bigger events. I started working on these smaller events where it's just literally just 3 minutes. We go to the park, play board games, or the co-working sessions you've come to once. Those smaller things, that's where I actually started to notice true community. And say the WhatsApp group as well, what brings me true fulfillment and just joy is just seeing people in the WhatsApp. I think like there was one time like someone did like a riddle or something, and like the WhatsApp group was just popping off with people communicating and just going, oh my god, I think it's this, or like what if it's this, or like oh my god, and then like having like a laugh about something else. And I was like, that is community.
Yeah.
Like doesn't have to necessarily be, oh, I'm a creative creating all the time. Like no, it can be as simple as like, hey, how are you doing today? Like, like, and just being that vulnerable, like, I just want to speak to someone today and actually feel more connected to people.
Well, because I feel like you also can't authentically talk about a project or an idea that you have unless you have some rapport, right? Like if I go up to a stranger at a networking event or whatever, I'm not necessarily going to be talking about, I mean, we talked about how the podcast started, that I was talking to a friend of mine, and it was such a hypothetical, right? And, you know, like, it has to start with a hypothetical, or it has to start with, like, a bud of an idea. And I'm not necessarily going to go up to someone at a networking event and be like, so I have this, like, bud of an idea. Because then it's like, I don't know if they're going to care.
Well, I think, like, yeah, networking, because we've been to a couple, you know, and, like, there seems to be... there seems to be like an unspoken kind of code of like, in order to have a real conversation with someone at one of these types of events, you both have to acknowledge that at some point there's a pitch that you're both gonna make a pitch.
It's so true.
You know, and like, cause you know, cause we are human beings and we do interact. Like, you can't override the way that it's normal to interact with somebody. So you meet someone for the first time. You're not going to walk out and be like, hi, so my name's this and I do this and like my, you know, whatever. There's a rapport that exists. Regardless of the context.
Well, and there's a lot of posturing when you first meet someone, right? I mean, we're all guilty of this, and that ego really comes in, right? Is that when you first have a conversation with someone, you want to position yourself the way that you'd like to be seen. But then as you get to know someone, and if you're actually in a community and you see them after a little while or whatever, you have actual interactions, that's where you're able to present vulnerability, right? And actually show, and that doesn't mean sharing every life secret that you have. That's not what I mean about that. But it's more like, oh, I'm working on this project and not every day is easy, right? And that's where you can actually have that, instead of me saying, going up to someone at a networking event and be like, we have this podcast, we've had 5 amazing episodes, which is true, but then like, we don't talk about the fact that it's like, oh yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work on the behind the scenes stuff, and we need to make sure that we're always scheduling, and sometimes it is too stressful to bring out an episode every week or whatever it is, you know, like you don't necessarily say that to someone at the beginning.
No.
So, but yeah, you're right. Like, real community does come down to the smaller little pieces.
Yeah, no, that's what's valuable about it is no, it's like, just to add to what you're saying, Elena, is we went to a networking thing a little while ago, and like we had a strategy moment before where we were like, how are we going to do this? And yeah, you can't, like, you have to run in, you have to like grab the attention. It's a pitch at all times. But I think that the real work of what happens in a community gets done when people set aside their, like, the shining bright star side of it, and they really get to actually have a chance to talk about the struggle of what they're trying to work on,
showing the authentic story of their journey.
Yeah,
that's where people, because I've been trying to, for Kind of Creative and my own personal brand and stuff, I've been trying to dive into marketing and storytelling, because my struggle has always been to clarify my message. I can speak to you like this and tell you what I love, like what I'm about and what I want to build and my ambitions, but putting that into a 30-second pitch and and showing people and telling that to people has always just been a real struggle of mine, and that's what it is. I think it's just learning how to tell your story authentic and like not off the cuff, but in a short, condensed way.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
And it's necessary, but it's not ideal, I think, is the way to put it.
Yeah, we both had notes for each other after. We had conversations with lots of people, and afterwards Theo was like, I like that you said this, didn't like that you said that. And after
That's
I was
great,
like, oh
though.
yeah, and that only happens when you have like a team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so many creatives don't necessarily have a team. They're on their own, they're doing whatever it is. And creativity is often a very independent activity.
And we're an independent society.
Yeah.
Like the West is so independent. Yes. And in some respects, okay, yeah, I think that is good. I'm a very independent person. I love being independent. I love being alone with my thoughts and like just being able to be free and do what I personally want to do. But there's a parallel and there's a yin and yang within everything. And I think we need connection, and we need the chance to be able to work with people, not in order to obtain something, but in order to provide, and it be a give and take, and that be on a linear line. Again, everything is parallel. Everything needs to be parallel. And as soon as you have something that's a little bit off, it's disconjointed. So it's all about it's all about balance.
Yeah. That's kind of what we were talking about. Again, like, I don't mean to like over reference other episodes, but like, it's just, again, I think the theme for this episode is reassuring, because so many things you've said have been so reassuring, and so like reaffirming, like, oh yeah, that's correct. Because we were talking about this like the private versus the public reality of the arts, and how there's a dichotomy. There's like kind of the fact of being an artist. There is an intensely private reality to it. Like when it comes to like how you enjoy a piece of art, everyone enjoys things differently, and like there's no way of truly communicating that like fully and like 100%
like accurately
yeah. And yet, when you create something, there's a seemingly like an intrinsic drive to share that with other people, and like you want to share this intensely private and individual thing with other people in a communal way, but then each of those people is going to have their own intensely private individual experience of it. And so like there's a polarity that I think it's always like you're always needing to reconcile that polarity. It's like you're talking about the yin and the yang, balancing those two realities and not letting one get out of sync with the other.
Yeah.
I think that's just important to be mindful of that all the time. If we can give that as advice to people listening, it's like,
no, I completely agree, and that's why when I say my whatever it is, phrase, whatever, everything and everyone is creativity, is because I think it's not about just finding the balance within our creativity. It's about finding the balance within ourselves and within just our life. Our hobbies, our times that we spend at home relates to our creative journey, and your photo shoot you have, and everything is it's almost like everything is one. And I think that's when the pressure and the anxiety of life can start to ease up, when you actually start realizing that, and you start kind of just being one with yourself rather than thinking you of this entity of a creative. No, you're like, yes, you are a creative. We're all creative beings, but that's the point. Like, we are everything.
I love that. That's like, yeah.
And inspiration is everywhere, right? Like, you don't necessarily wake up in the morning being like, I'm going to go outside and find inspiration. It's not necessarily like that. You can kind of, sometimes it just hits like a light bulb, or sometimes it's like, I don't know, it percolates in a way, right? Where do you find inspiration for your work and your projects? I say it's not prescriptive, and then
this one particular person.
The one spot you go.
I think just people, and also and this is no way trying to be self-indulgent, but I actually believe that everyone should, in some respects, find inspiration from themselves. Like the fact I got up today, like, inspired me to. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, even those little things. So I think it's I get inspiration from everywhere. I get a lot of inspiration from just people and positive experiences, and seeing something on the side, like, seeing someone on the side, just like, I don't know, saying hello to someone, or But yeah, and then I get a lot of inspiration from just driven, ambitious people, you know, like Stephen Bartlett and like, you know, people on that, yeah, just things to do with life, not necessarily to do with just creative, just like positive life growth. And when I can see that and I'm communicating, like this is inspirational for me, because I'll leave this thinking like, oh wow, I've had such a meaningful conversation, and just talking about life, being vulnerable and being honest, and that is inspiring to me.
That's really cool. I do feel, actually, I feel the same way after we have these chats, is that I'm like, oh, I feel like we could do so many different things, you know? And you have to, like, in a way, harness it, because I have to start to write things down. I'm big on journaling, because then I get inspired by the random thoughts that pop into my head.
That is a great example of being inspired by yourself,
Yeah.
right? Is the journaling and the writing, you know, writing to yourself,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah. Kind of, this is something that I think we've sort of talked around, but maybe not fully, just like pointed to, is what do you think of in terms of like, how do you define success for yourself?
I think success is different for every single person, but I think success for me is being able to handle every day positively and authentically.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because I think it's easy to look at a day and define yourself by that. I have to stop doing that.
That is such an interesting answer. I don't think we've ever heard something like that before. Because usually, like, that's a very like micro kind of way of thinking about success. Like, whereas, yeah, like I think people usually think of success in terms of like, well, my milestone or my goal. Like even with the podcast, we think of like monetizing the podcast and, you know, whatever, success that way. But that actually now, like, the wheels are turning. Yeah, if you can wake up and go to bed in a day and look at that day and say like, I maximized whatever was possible that day. And I think that's the key way of putting it. It's kind of what you're talking about with the anxiety. Yeah. It's like maybe today the script for the day was I got up, I had a shower, I did the dishes, and I watched a show, and then I cooked dinner and went to bed. And that's it, you know?
Yeah.
And like maybe that's what that authentically was supposed to happen. And I think that I get, and I think a lot of people probably get like, oh, you know, I wasted that day because I didn't finish X, Y, and Z things, and I didn't, you know,
For my future success that I don't even know has happened yet.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is, I think that, okay, of course I have like what my success could be for the community, you know, being global and supporting, you know, millions of people with this idea of connecting through creative unity. But there's multiple different types of successes, but I think if you can find the micro success that is true to you for the present, that then carries on every day because that's in the present and that's now. And if you can feel that success now, that will lead you to a successful life because you're leading every day with this ambition just to be, you know, content within yourself, and that is your positive success. And I think that should be almost like the core success, and then everything around it that can still be what your future ambitions are, and but everything changes.
Yeah.
Everything adapts, and what you thought yesterday could be different tomorrow, but today is today.
Yeah. And kind of like looking at basically like looking at every moment, you know, depending on how micro you want to get, but you really could go right down to the moment and say like, what is possible in this moment? And like I think that's the question, is like, what is possible actually, rather than what would I like to be possible, you know? And then saying, what am I going to do about that? I didn't think that this would come up, but I'm gonna do it.
Whoa, crazy.
I'm like,
So,
what?
and I'm not like shy about this, but like, so yeah, this is just like a left turn, but I've had issues with addiction for a while. I'm a recovering gambling addict, and that reminds me in like a really bizarre way, but roundabout way, of like the one day at a time sort of mantra that happens in like recovery programs and that kind of thing. But I've experienced that with recovering from addiction, is that asking yourself, what is it today? Am I not going to gamble? Right. Like, and if I can't ask that question about today, then I'll ask that question about in the next hour. Is it possible for me to not place a bet in the next hour? And then is it possible for me to not place a bet in the next minute? And you go down as far as you need to, and say, can I get by with just not doing that for this amount of time? And you don't. One of the key, the idea is a day at a time. And so the key is like, you don't look ahead in 5 years and say, I'm not gonna gamble for 5 years, because you can't manage that. It's just way too much. But then you look at the end of the day and you go, oh, look at that. I managed to, set aside that destructive behavior and do other things that have been enriching and good for my life. That's success, right? That's a successful day. And then when tomorrow comes, we'll deal with it when it comes, kind of thing. But it's like what you're talking about. You look at the present, you look at what's possible in the present, and then you face that head on, instead of, so I didn't think that like addictions and gambling and that would come up, but it's very relatable,
Yeah. And that's why I say everything is one, because it's that a drug addiction can have the same energy as like a creative obsession.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
You know what I
100%,
mean? Like,
yeah.
it's exactly, everything is all tied. So if we can just go back to that central point of like, today I was successful because I did A, B, and C, like that, that's when you can start to find your authentic path, because you're just being one with what excites you and makes you feel positively driven every day. And I think that's what's important. And I think it's too easy for us, especially now, like we were talking about with social media and stuff like that, to think ahead of like what I could be. Yeah. And let's just figure out what I can be today, or
what's possible in this moment
right now. Yeah. Something that I've noticed with that is I will have really, 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 really low days where I just feel paralyzed and I can't do anything. But in my head, I'm like, oh no, but I'm on this ambitious mission and I need to do something today, because otherwise I'm like lazy and I feel guilty and all this, and I will try to push through, and then sometimes the work just isn't. It's just not what it could be, and I think it's important to sometimes like. So I had this like a couple of weeks ago where I was feeling awful, like the day I was just feeling like not myself, and I just wanted to stay in bed. But I was like, there was this event with this community that I really wanted to connect with, but in the back of my head I was like, I just really want to get back into networking and I want to be able to connect with people again, but I'm not feeling like I want to connect. And like my wife Soph said something to me, and she says this every single time. She's like, look, just go. See, if you go and you're there for 5 minutes and you come back, cool. But you've done it, and you come back and you're just going to sit and we're going to chill and it'll be like normal. And I did it, and I stayed there the whole entire time. So it's that was a bit off track of what I was saying, but I think it's important to stick to your energies and to stick to what your energy is at that time. And yes, try to push past that that safe zone, because that's where progression comes. But just being what's the word I'm looking for? Being
I think there's this consciousness in a way of what your intuition and your awareness and
there's a particular word I'm looking for and it's completely slipped my mind. But not grateful, but compassionate.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
Oh, yeah.
compassion. Yes.
Being compassionate for yourself
Yes.
and going like, okay, I really am not in this zone. My energy is not right. I'm not going to push past, but I'm still going to try and step out of my comfort zone and see where I can take it. And then sometimes it will just unleash that anxiety and go, wow, oh my God, I'm doing it. I feel I've actually achieved something. And that will create a bigger achievement and a bigger positive success for yourself on that day. But then sometimes, even if you just push past, go for 5 minutes and go, no, I can't do this, that still is a success. And rather than leaving it going like, no, I'm a failure, no, like you pushed past and you still did something, you know? And yeah.
Well, and the way that we speak to ourselves is always going to be like unbelievably more harsh than the way that you would speak to other people. I mean, this was something that really...
Unless you're like a narcissist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, there was one time that I was really getting down on myself, and I was like, and I was saying it out loud though, and I was like, oh, I'm all these things, I suck at this and whatever. And Theo looked at me and he said, don't talk about my favorite person that way.
Oh.
Which is cute.
So cute.
So
romantic.
But like,
But that's become a little epithet we have now.
yeah, and I've told friends that too, where I'm like, don't talk about yourself that way because you're my friend. I'm not going to let anyone else talk to you that way. Why would I let you talk to yourself that way, right? Like I said that to one of our friends the other day, is that I was like, you're being way too hard on yourself because I wouldn't say that about you, so stop saying it about
If
yourself.
someone said that about my friend or girlfriend, I would get very upset with them.
Yeah.
But you're the one saying it, so
Yeah, so I'm like,
cut it out.
knock it
Good
off.
point, yeah.
You know, like, because that is something that, like, the people around you, your community, your loved ones, that kind of thing, they're going to tell the truth, or hopefully tell the truth to you, but, like, they're going to say it in a way that is compassionate. So you need to do it the same way to yourself, right?
Exactly.
Like, yeah. So we've talked about your life as a photographer now, but as a well-rounded, experiencing the world and that kind of thing. I suppose my question to yourself is, what is it kind of that you're looking to do in the next like couple of months that you think is kind of your next creative steps?
So recently, like I said, I took a step back from like events and stuff, and I think now the journey for me, I've always been against this idea of business and all of that stuff. But I think, but someone said to me years ago, you have a duty to almost make money or create a business to help in order to actually truly help others. But I was still kind of against this idea of like, I don't want to make money, I don't want business, I just want to just live life and just help people and support people. And that has been amazing, but I'm now getting to this point of, okay, how do we actually sustain this? So now I have taken a step back, and I'm now just looking at I'm kind of trying to look at the business side of things. How do we make this a truly authentic business where we can support people, we can actually start making money, and utilize that to grow the community, to make it something that can actually bring value to people's lives. Because I now think it's my duty to become the man I never wanted to be, which is the businessman. But also, like, I think in that respect, I've always said, like, if I can change the mentality of the business corporate culture, then I think that to me is amazing. So now my idea is to kind of understand a little bit more about business and how I can utilize that with the company side of things of the community. Kind of grow that side, get a little bit better at presenting ourselves on social media, and a part of that, I'm working on a bit of an authentic brand builder program, because as you said, I love speaking philosophically. I love talking to people. I love helping people, and I love being in someone's journey and being able to support them along that journey. And I've continuously tried to find my authentic path, and I think with all the potential failures and things that I've done and awareness that I've tried to find around my reality and the reality around me. I believe now that I'm at a time where I can potentially support others with that journey. So, yeah, my main big kind of project is to figure that side of things out, of how I now become a guide for people within their lives to find their authentic message through my experiences, through my ideas, and through the different things that I do. So yeah, I'm just kind of working that out at the moment, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm working with two people at the moment, two amazing creatives, up and coming creatives, and we've just been working together. And I think what's beautiful about it is, like, I've told them that, this is a journey for both of us. I'm learning about this, you're learning about yourself, but with that process, I'm actually learning so much more, and I'm really enjoying it. And yeah, I really love just connecting with people and being able to guide them on a path to true, authentic, positive growth and success. So yeah, that's my kind of thing at the moment.
Well, Dan, this has been so fun. We've
been
loved
amazing.
having the conversation with you. It's been amazing to learn about your creative journey, your path forward, and what you're looking forward to moving forward as well. So thank you for joining us.
No, thank you so much. Honestly, it's been so great. I feel like I need to end with the orange glasses. I started with them.
Start and end.
Continuity.
I love the orange glass.
But no, it's been amazing. Honestly, I've really thrived off this conversation. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, well, and everyone check out Dan's. We'll put your socials and links and all.
And the Candler Creative Community.
Elena handles that, but I'm just gonna flag that check out Dan's work. If you're interested in artistic communities, then and you live in London, get involved.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah, dope.